Hello everyone, this is This Dialogue. I'm Santayo Tamrat with this edition, and in this edition I'll bring you the updates of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam negotiations as well as the border disputes with Sudan and the humanitarian aid activities in northern Ethiopia in Tigray region. And my guest today is Ambassador Dina Mufti. Ambassador Dina Mufti is the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia. Welcome to This Dialogue, Ambassador Dina Mufti.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me as a guest.
I have a range of issues today, and let's start it with the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. And the latest event of the AU-led negotiation ended up with disagreements. And what are the major causes for these disagreements, Ambassador Dina?
Well, you're right. The recent trilateral negotiations on the GERD has taken place in Kinshasa, that is the Democratic Republic of Congo, under the auspices of the African Union. However, unfortunately, there was an agreement due to certain situations, certain conditions, due to the predicaments that were posed by the negotiating countries. You know, Ethiopia has joined that trilateral negotiations with faith, with the hope of reaching an agreement, amicable agreement, win-win situations. But unfortunately, that could not happen. We were ready to negotiate, to agree on the filling of the dam, because we are going to fill it, and the administration, on the administration of the filling, on the management of the filling. Otherwise, we were ready also to continue the negotiation under the auspices of the African Union. However, the other side was not willing to continue under the auspices of the African Union. They came with another proposal without testing the validity of the African Union, the chairmanship of the African Union. And we felt this is an African issue. This is negotiations among African countries. And we thought we should agree as Africans under our organization, that is the African Union. Though the other side, unfortunately, were looking for other mechanism, which is not African. They were also posing other agendas. For example, they were posing the agendas of agreeing or negotiating or simply signing an agreement on the comprehensive utilization, comprehensive utility of the resource. We basically agree with it, but definitely we want to negotiate on it. Now we said, as a matter of priority, let us agree on the filling and on the management of the filling, and then let us continue the negotiations on the comprehensive utilizations or use of the river. Because we believe in that as well. We are ready for that as well. But because of these two major differences, we could not succeed. And unfortunately, the negotiation had been stopped without yielding any fruit.
So what is just the next point Ethiopia is going to take based on the AU-led negotiation, which is just almost full of...
We are still committed to the AU-led process. We hope AU will take the initiative of restarting it. Definitely they will call us to the negotiation. As usual, we'll go to the negotiation faithfully. It's a track record of Ethiopia to go to this negotiation faithfully. We have never had a track record of boycotting it. All the way, we have been going to the table, we have been going to the venue, we have been going to the negotiation forum with faith, with the belief that we'll find solutions under our continental organizations. And this is what we are ready to do now. This is what we are ready to do in the future as well.
Well, Ambassador, there have been just reports that Egyptian negotiators from the very beginning came with different agendas. in each negotiation session. And is that an attempt to change the course of the trilateral negotiation or what?
Definitely. I think the intention of coming out with different agendas at different forums is simply to derail the process and to make sure that the African Union chairmanship could not succeed or did not succeed or will not succeed. This is what they are doing. It can be portrayed as not trusting the African Union. It could be portrayed as not respecting the African Union. It can be portrayed as mistrust of the African Union in general and disrespect of the African Union. These sides, they have a track record of coming in and coming out of the negotiations. They were doing it when they were the chairman, under their chairmanship of the African Union. They have taken the process out of Africa. They have taken it to the other side. Even after, under the chairmanship of the South African, they have tried several times to take the negotiations, and they have been boycotting it for close to about 7 times. This is unfortunate, and it is simply a testimony to the fact that they don't have a respect for the African Union.
In terms of agendas, we can just see that in 3 phases. The first one is during the first years of the negotiation, when they were all talking about, just particularly Egypt, talking about the water shares, the historical water shares. Then the technical agreement. After the technical agreement, particularly the panel of expertise research was disclosed. Egypt, I know that Egypt agreed here in the capital, but when it went to Cairo, the minister, the water minister, had already said a different thing, that it disagreed with that panel of expertise result. And the next one is the one it took to the agenda to the US and the World Bank. And there was also a different agenda. Can you just mention these points?
Well, changing tones, changing phases has been generic to this side, and they have been doing it all along. Despite all this, we have been tolerant, and Ethiopia has been faithfully attending this process, because we are hoping for the final settlement, for the settlement which will land all of us at win-win positions. That is how we have been, we have been talking about it. And Ethiopia has been clear about it, and we have been always committed to a win-win situation. To begin with, Ethiopia has now any intention, an iota of intentions of hurting the other country. There is no reason to hurt it. Ethiopia believes in the fact that Nile should be the source of cooperation, not the source of conflict, not the source of contention. This is Ethiopia's intentions. This is a huge river. This is a huge resource. It's God-given resource. It's good for all of us. It benefits all of us. And our people, our brotherly and sisterly people of Africa, Egyptians, Sudanese, Ethiopians, can benefit from this river. This is what we have been telling them, and we have been sincere about it. And still Ethiopia is sincere, and will continue being sincere. Unfortunately, the other side has been portraying different features, different phrases. And that is very unfortunate. The so-called historic right is an idea that should not stand. To begin with, it's a colonial treaty that has given 55% of this river, which 86% of it emanates from Ethiopia, to Egypt, and 18% to Sudan. About 11 riparian countries are entitled, have a legitimate right of using this natural resource. But it is a treaty, a colonial treaty, that only benefited 2 of the 11 countries. And to recount it, to reestablish it, is non-starter. It's unfair, it's illegitimate. We're not in that treaty, we're not part of it. It's unfair. Now, we have this principle of equitable and the rational utilization of the resource. which all 11 riparian countries should be committed to. And that is why we are out for equitable and rational utilization of the resource. This is what we have been saying all along. We have been consistent. Ethiopia is consistent, and this consistency emanates from genuine intentions of mutual respect and mutual cooperation with the rest of the world.
We heard that Ethiopia has come a long way during the 10 years negotiation over the GERD. And why are Egypt and Sudan not satisfied with these bold steps of Ethiopia?
I hope sense of justice should prevail. I hope the leadership should come to the sense, and they have to realize that this is 21st century, a century which everybody is conscious, where everybody is vigilant about its legitimate right. It's not a colonial era. That era has passed, it's an obsolete, and this new era is an era where everybody has rise to the occasion of making sure that its legitimate rights are respected and observed closely and seriously. So it's very difficult nowadays to benefit and to have a monopoly right over a resource which is common, a God-given resource. It's very much difficult to alienate a country from which 86% of this water emanates.
So Ethiopia has already announced the second phase filling of the GERD reservoir. But following these downstream countries, Egypt and Sudan are threatening and warning Ethiopia, and they would take any possible measure against that. And what is the government's preparation for this, and what is the government's stance regarding this?
A win-win solution is a solution that everybody can benefit from. All the three countries, their people can benefit from a win-win solution, from an agreement, from diplomatic solutions. The threats and others won't help. They are not to anyone's benefit and to anyone's advantage. We hope common sense will prevail, and people will desist from threat. That does it worse. That doesn't help anyone. And threats are not solutions. Wars cannot be solutions. Otherwise, everybody should know that for every action there is opposite and equal reactions. I don't want to go into any detail.
Well, until recently, the Sudan was confidently talking about the benefits of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam to the Sudanese people and the Sudan as a whole. And it was designing all the agreements until the negotiations that was taken to the United States.
Oh, definitely. That is, you know, this dam benefits Sudanese equal with Ethiopians, if not more. The construction of the Tekeze Dam has been a witness that the construction of this dam will reduce sedimentations, which will threaten Sudanese dams. It saves the water from evaporations. It gives cheap and environmentally safe electricity to the Sudanese, and is as beneficiary to Sudanese as it benefits Ethiopians. The Sudanese leadership, the renowned ones, even the ones who have been negotiating, they have been admitting, they have been talking about the benefits of our dams until recently. What dramatically has changed the situation is not clear to all of us. It's mysterious, and I don't think one could be able to explain what happened, unless it's a proxy thing which doesn't benefit the Sudanese leadership as well. So I think common sense will prevail, and definitely will continue together with these friendly people of the neighboring countries, especially the downstream countries.
There are just still some propositions that it is the Egyptian hand as you said, just which is going to be a sort of proxy war. And also, it is a sort of measure by the Sudanese government to cover the internal affairs or just the assignment it had at home, the challenges, the political situation at home. And what is your take on this?
Well, people could play various fake politics to compensate for their domestic deficiencies. But the bottom line is that the fact this dam is beneficiary to all of us, Nile is source of our cooperations, and our friendship. You know, with Sudanese, our people have close relationship. We have cultural relationship, religious, spiritual relationship, and two people's relationship is very strong. These are the two peoples have been supporting each other in times of difficulties, and they owe each other a lot. And I think the halubalu now doesn't measure up to the relationship, to the level of the relationship between our two peoples and our two countries. I think it's unfortunate. Perhaps I hope it will be simply a temporary phenomenon which hope will vanish and will remain or will be thrown to the dust of history.
If we just raise the issue of Sudan, let's go to the border disputes with Ethiopia. And Ambassador Dina, could you just tell us the current developments of the border dispute with Sudan and government's possible future actions?
The border issues between Ethiopia and Sudan has been there for the last 100 years. The earlier demarcation was the 1902 and 03 demarcations, which had been carried out by the certain measure from British measure, and that was not agreeable between the two people and the two countries. Therefore, 1972, the two countries have exchanged. There was an exchange of notes, which had been deposited at the UN by the other side, and in that exchange of notes, you have agreed to negotiate and demarcate the border in a way that it will be amicable to both countries. And due to that agreement, actually, there had been about 3 committees that had been formed, that had been carrying out negotiations or redemarcating the border in a manner that both countries agreed to. This had been going on for years, and we have been negotiating. These committees have been talking peacefully and in a very friendly spirit. Unfortunately, this is a sudden phenomenon. When we were engaged with maintaining peace and order in the northern part of Ethiopia, there was incursions by the Sudanese army, and sudden one, unexpected, and very unfortunate as well. It doesn't measure the relationship between our two countries, our historic relationship, friendship, which had been robust. Now we are telling them, look, this is not in your interest. It's not in our interest as well. If it is about a border, let us utilize the existing mechanism, which we have already initiated, we have agreed to, and we have been carrying out. Let's discuss. Let's solve. Let's reach out the amicable solutions. This is what we are telling them. We are telling them wars are counterproductive. We don't deserve. Our two peoples, our region, Africa in general, even the entire world do not deserve wars, because wars are destructive. This is what we are telling them. We are impressing on the Sudanese friends and our common friends as well to impress on the Sudanese leadership, especially the military wing, to refrain, desist from this act and go back to the status quo, so that we'll continue the usual negotiations which we have been carrying out for years, so that both countries, we deserve cooperation in various areas. We deserve working together. We deserve standing together. That is what benefits our people. This confrontation, this unnecessary confrontation, if it is not proxy, it doesn't help anyone. Perhaps it benefits the other side. Those who do not intend war good for the region. and for ourselves.
Let me base just my next question on your last sentence. And some analysts argue that the invasion of the Sudanese military force in the borders of Ethiopia is just part of the plot of Egypt with the intention of diverting the Ethiopian government military operation in Tigray state. What is your take here?
Well, it could be right. It seems it's right. It's not with good intentions. It's not with genuine intentions, because it's not rational. We should not be stabbed from the behind. Yeah.
My next point here would be there is just a lot of criticism on the Ethiopian government that it has not been adequately informing the world or just the global community, let me say, through media as well as missions abroad. And some even argue that if it had done this very well previously, there would not been this much misinformation among the global media as well as the global community.
Well, disinformations, misinformations and fake news on what is going on in Ethiopia, particularly with regard to the maintaining peace and order, law and order, enforcing law and order, emanates from two sides. I can characterize it comes from two conditions. One is actually from the media outlets, the activists, and the practitioners, political practitioners, who are on the pay list of those forces that are being sought after because of infringing on the law and order of the nations. Those on the pay list, those on the payrolls. And these are the ones, they have a vested interest. They have a vested interest. They are warmongers because they are interested in, they were talking about protracted warfare in the region. They were anticipating that Ethiopia's operations, internal operations, will engulf the regions, and the region will be totally devastated by conflicts and wars. They were expecting disasters. The forces who were looking for this were not in the interests of the region. These are the forces that benefit from wars, from conflicts and disasters, especially from dislocations of the people, be it internal or external. And they are, these forces, whether you tell them the reality or not, whether you inform them or not, they care less about the reality on the ground because they have a vested interest in it. They don't want, the quick accomplishment of the law enforcement operations were not in their interest, because they were speculating otherwise, they were projecting otherwise. They were talking about protracted wars that will engulf the region. So these ones, whoever tells them, even when the angel comes down from the sky and tells them, you don't convince them. These are one. There are others also who, who advance around fake news because of the ignorance, because of not getting accurate information fastly by our side. I would like to admit that there are limitations initially about informing the rest of the world about what is happening in Ethiopia. In fact, there is limitations on the part of our side as well. This should be admitted, actually. We evaluated it, we're assessing it, and finally we have active information campaign has been started. There were limitations on the part of our missions as well, or embassies, I mean, by of giving proactive information. And that is corrected now. There are a lot of Ethiopian diaspora, colleagues abroad, and by the way, I want to take this opportunity to thank them for rising to the occasions and taking this opportunity to inform the rest of the world about what's happening in Ethiopia, and impressing on others to report what is happening in Ethiopia as it is, than advancing fake news and wrong news, misinformations around. So we need to give a balance to it. There are limitations on the part of our missions, our institutions as well, our government, but it's not all. That's not all. There are those with vested interests who, whether you tell them or not, do not care about it. For example, let me tell you one thing. Initially, there were concerns about opening up the northern part of Ethiopia. They were talking about access, as if they were coming with huge assistance, relief assistance. Now the access is there on the basis of notifications. Only few came with the necessary materials. Still 70% of the assistance is coming from the government cover, while they are covering only 30%. Well, in the meantime, we should thank governments like the United States who came with huge assistance and should be commended for that. Others should follow that. We appreciate they are concerned about opening up, but the government has opened it. But the reactions, the assistance, the size doesn't match with the intentions, the mood they have been showing earlier on. These are some of the things that can be cited as an example. So there are limitations on one hand, but still there are those with vested interest who, whether you give them information or not, do not change their positions because there is a vested interest.
Ambassador Dina, in relation with this, your ministry is responsible in informing both local and foreign media, as well as the global community, diplomats whose seat is here in Addis, about the current situations in Ethiopia, including the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam negotiation developments, as well as the Tigray crisis and the border disputes. So what is the future plan of action regarding adequately informing this global community and the media?
From day one, if you talk particularly about the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, ranging from the Deputy Prime Minister of the Foreign Affairs, and the other officials had been regularly briefing ambassadors and the representatives of the international communities here. They have been holding several virtual conferences and conversations with officials of the other countries, including foreign ministers and others. There have been various visits also. We have welcomed various officials from EU, from the United States. They are coming in and coming out. Not only our Deputy Prime Minister, not only state ministers, department heads, and everybody else. We have been doing this. Groups of ambassadors, African ambassadors, Asian ambassadors, ambassadors from European countries, resident here, are briefed regularly about what is happening in Ethiopia. This is when it comes to our ministry here. As far as our missions are concerned, missions are also under instructions to brief various officials of the countries in which they reside or they are represented about what is happening in the country. This has been carried out on a regular basis. It's not only that, friends of Ethiopians, Ethiopian diaspora, and others were also very much busy at it. Even we have had various demonstrations in Europe, in various capitals of Europe, North America. These were an outcome of the diplomatic activities that were carried out with regard to what is happening in the country. I'm not saying this is enough. We should upgrade it. But now what we have witnessed recently is, though it's not evaluated and it's not a report of the evaluations, we have seen there is dwindling of the fake propagandas. There is dwindling of negative stories. There is an acknowledgement coming out from the rest of the world about the positive efforts that Ethiopia is going on, is carrying out. Rehabilitations in the northern part of Ethiopia. Access positive news about investigations that the government has allowed, which is underway by both the international institutions and the domestic institutions as well. So now things are improving. We hope it should improve more further, and stories should be told, positive stories should be told. But still, those on the payrolls who are out to tarnish the image of the country should continue their duties, because that is their day-to-day activities as well. But I think their influence is dwindling eventually.
Ambassador Dina Mufti, spokesperson of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, thank you very much for joining this dialogue.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Hello, dear This Dialogue viewers. This is a conversation with Ambassador Dina Mufti, who is spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia. We have already discussed on major issues like the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, the developments of the negotiations, as well as the humanitarian aid activities in the Tigray region and the border disputes with Sudan. Thank you for joining us, and you can also watch us again on EBC Tube as well as Facebook on ETV languages. Thank you so much.